What's going on, guys? Today I wanted to talk about something that I often think about, and I have some ideas. The whole subject is woodwork is dying. And even though you may see a bunch of influencers like ourselves and others, and a bunch of hobbyists, a lot of people don't know that you can actually do this and make a living. And when I talk about people not knowing, I'm mostly referencing the youth. See, the interest in woodworking is mostly for the older generations, with some young people definitely involved. But the ratio is really thrown off. And a great example of this was the experience Tyler and I had last night. We went to a local woodworkers club with Triple L Rustic, and Tyler, Trey, and I weren't the youngest there because there was like a 10-year-old there with his father. But out of all 30 or 40 people, it only seemed like there was the four of us under 40 years old. And again, no hate on the older generations, most of you. I think the main reason, or I think there's a couple main reasons why this is the case. And today I'm going to rant a little bit about that. Because I think more people can make a difference. So the first reason I'll start off with, and a lot of people would agree with this one, is woodworking and different trades and crafts just aren't being taught the same way to young kids as it used to be. Woodworking shops are closing up, and trade schools aren't promoted as being like a good path. Most of the time, at least when I grew up, it was go to college to get some, like the highlights were like doctor, lawyer, banker, insert whatever thing involved there that involves like a suit or nice dress ups or working in an office or cubicle or something. But I don't think that's for everybody. Again, I'm not hating on people who want to further their education. Education's good for it. But at least in my case, and like Tyler's case, we both attempted college, and we weren't finding fulfillment, and we weren't, we both ended up using our hands, but not in the way we wanted to, right? I had no idea you could make beautiful things and then sell them, and there was a high demand for them. And I think more young people need to know. The messages getting out there are mostly through like Instagram, TikTok, some YouTube videos, but how many of them are relatable to most people? Like even us now, we're in a different size shop, even if it is missing insulation and metal and there's holes in the roof. People see our shop and they're like, whoa, but that's, there isn't like a big bar of entry. All people need to do is buy a couple tools and they can get right into it. They could just buy a sander, and there's plenty of work for them to start. Now, I always recommend people start their own business, even if it's tough at first, but I know that's not feasible for everyone. But for example, if you got a $60 DeWalt 5-inch sander, right, and you've learned how to sand right, there's wood shops that would hire you, just like us, like that, because that's just entry-level work, learning how to run wood through a machine, entry-level work if you're trying to work for someone at first. And then learning how to finish and build basic things. It all comes with time. So one of the efforts that TNT is doing is making content geared so that young people, and I'm always imagining like the middle school and high school version of myself, right? They like it because, again, no hate on other content creators and definitely no hate on the older generation, but the content that comes along with that, isn't respecting the attention span and the interests of the younger generation. And if you don't want to see woodworking or any other trade or craft die, that's how it kind of has to be geared. You have to kind of think about your audience in that way. So again, that was the first reason, which I just don't think the message is getting out to young people. The second reason is because I'm going to save I'm going to save the worst fucking reason for the end. But the second reason is that people think it's just kind of like hard work and manual labor, where in the woodworking field, there's so much technology that's making it easy peasy between CNC machines, lasers, like Festool products, which I know are expensive, but they just make the job wicked easy. Not all of the tools I'm talking about are like $20,000 machines. You can even find used expensive machines for relatively cheap. And all these different things make high-level production and high skill level kind of not a thing. Like, you used to only be able to make certain types of joints to get a strong, connection between wood, like dovetail joints or insert whatever joint you want. But it's like a Festool domino or a dowel machine. You don't really need that skill to achieve the same result. And again, I know people like their dovetails and some people like that prettiness, but when it comes to making money, that's not the way to go. Like making money in the woodworking field is high efficiency, high production rate, and then you also want to, for sure, always have a high level product, high quality product. And there's tons of technology out there that allows you to do that. A CNC machine, for example, can cut out a crazy cool base, something that would take someone by hand forever, and so that kind of relates to the first subject where the message isn't getting out there. But if more people knew that high-level woodworking is relatively easy now, it would probably grow more, And the last reason, and this one is the one that rubs me wrong all the time because we're actually recipients of a lot of this hate. There's a good percentage of old school woodworkers and the older generation that's in this, in this environment that likes to just hate on new ideas and evolving technologies. Dime a dozen do we get people hating on some new finish we're using or whatever method, or people are hating on the C channel that we put in the tables, saying, it's not wood, so it's not woodworking. What is wrong with you? C channel is making it flatter. It allows making high quality tables more accessible to people with less skill. We're gonna make a video where we glue up every board the wrong way. So all be with the grain cupped in the same direction. And we'll make it out of some red oak, something that just takes up water bad. And we're gonna put C-channel in it just to prove a point of how new products and technologies are making things way easier and way better for woodworkers nowadays. Oftentimes, we'll have people just, for whatever reason, they hate on epoxy, which a lot of that work is cool. Like, epoxy work tends to actually draw in eyes of the youth because it's a lot cooler than that old-fashioned, just straight stuff. And, you know, we produce a lot of straight stuff, but there just needs to be a lot more tolerance from the old school. And it's not all of them, but there's definitely a healthy percentage of the older generation of woodworkers who just love to rag. They just love to rag. And what that does is it stifles inspiration, ingenuity in the youth. You know, like, if these people are just hating on me for what I'm doing and what I love, why would I keep pursuing? You know, I can understand that, even though I don't necessarily follow that dogma. So it's like, if you're one of those people, then I challenge you to be a little more accepting. If you see someone making a mistake, tell them in a way that isn't fucking annoying, you know? Tell them in a way that they would actually be receptive to learn from you. And then if they still don't listen, you don't need to rag on them. You just let them make their mistake, like we have, and then they'll learn, right? When we started in the beginning, just to bring up a good example, we made a sweet ambrosia table, huge, you know, it was like 9 foot by 4 foot wide, and the lady wanted breadboard ends. Oh, the hate that ensued from the woodworking clubs on like Facebook and Instagram or whatever, talking about wood movement this, and this is gonna fuck up this, and all this other malarkey, right? Well, that table's fine. Table is indoors. The wood movement thing, you gotta respect as a woodworker, but you also gotta think, guys, a lot of these things go inside in air condition where the climate is relatively dry and doesn't really change unless there's like a power outage or something. So, like with my experience and Tyler's experience in the construction field, they put together wood with just screws, and it's outside in the sun, worse climates, sometimes over water like decks, and these things last 25 to 50 years, depending on how you build it. And a lot of them don't include some crazy joinery, and a lot of them also include screws. And again, people like to hate on us because we stick to the old tried, true, and blue method, glue and screw. It may not be pretty in some cases, but in other cases you don't even see it. And then people are still hating on it, saying the metal's gonna break, even though these screws are meant for decks, which move way more than an indoor piece of furniture. But again, I digress a little bit. The main point is that a lot of people, and it's not necessarily just the old school, because there's some, it's not the young people though at all, but there's some, like, I don't want to say middle age, but they're not like the old school generation. They're relatively new generation people. And they also like to hate on woodworkers doing different things. People, like, one of the comments we had on a recent video we posted was specifically about C-channel. And number one, see these slots? There's so much wood movement, and wood only moves 1/8 of an inch, like every 6 or 8 inches. That's the expansion and contraction. And that definitely adds up over time. These slots are like 1 inch, right? So there's a lot of wood movement there. And then the C-channel as well, it takes a lot to bend it. I'm glad I didn't hurt it, but just in case, you know what I mean? takes a lot to bend this stuff. So one of our goals here at TNT is to inspire more young people to get into woodworking and start their own business, right? Like, as much as we are looking for an apprentice right now, I would be happier seeing 5 high-quality people just starting their own business, just like Tyler and I did. A lot of you who are new to the channel haven't necessarily seen us when we were in our 75-year-old shop that during the summers, half of the floor would flood out. And also during the summers, around 12 o'clock, we have to stop working because we're so hot in there, right? But now we're in this, and we've had people support us, but none of it would have worked if we didn't just have the work ethic to get it done. You know, college is a sacrifice financially and time, but so is building a business. And I would argue that whatever business it is, even if it's not woodwork, has a higher ceiling than most college degrees. Even doctors, like my uncle's an anesthesiologist, right? Unless he starts his own business, right, he's not going to make more than $600,000 to $900,000 a year, which I know is a lot, right? But then again, our business mentor, Steve, he runs a lumber yard. He's the one who got us into woodworking full time when COVID hit. He runs a $4 million lumber yard, and the overhead is about $40,000 a month. So, you know, do that math. He's making a lot of money. And like, props to Steve, because when he saw us, when we first went into Lumber Specialties, his lumber yard, we were into home renovation, and we had just gotten an order for our first butcher block countertop. It's a little island. It was like 30 inches by maybe 60 inches, 5 feet. He came in there and he's like, wow, you guys are young, like, what do you do? And we told him what we did. We did home renovation. We're working on this thing. And the first thing he asked is like, do you have a portfolio or a website or something? And hell yeah, I did. Fuck yeah, I did. I showed him the website. I showed him our Instagram. I told him how we're trying to get into YouTube, and that's like before we had even like 10 subscribers or something. And he believed in us, right? And people like Steve, who is part of the older generation, he's like, you know what, boys? I want to help you make some money. And it started out with him just allowing us to get wood for our labor. So he would give us a bunch of wood, and we would do a bunch of work for him. But anyways, that hard work in building a business, even if you have to start over, is definitely more lucrative, no matter what industry you're in. There's no ceiling in this world right now for business. It can go from super local to regional to national to worldwide, depending on how much work and how much effort you want to put into it. And so, hopefully, TNT can be a true account of what it takes to build $1 million business. And if you are young and hopeless out there, and maybe you went to college, maybe you did some other things and they didn't work out, don't give up. Find something that you love and pursue it relentlessly. Everything comes at a cost. And I think if you're going to trade your time and your short life for something, it should be something you love and something that doesn't have a ceiling to stop you. Doing something that doesn't fulfill you is going to cost a lot more than the work it takes on the front end doing something fulfilling. So anyways, I don't want woodworking to die. I don't want IKEA and Rooms to Go and other piece of crap furniture places to be the only thing or the majority thing. If there's more woodworkers, prices for products will come down. People will innovate. People will find easier methods to build stuff. There's a ton of giant producing woodworking shops that are going out of business, and a great place where you can see that is if you go to something like IRS auctions, where we got our $3,000 table saw for $500, and you can see how many of these auctions are because this whole factory is going out of business. And that's because you don't actually need some huge factory with some crazy overhead to produce the same stuff now. And they're getting out-competed by people like us, And then there's people who outproduce us for lower margins, like the same white oak butcher block that we would sell for, I don't know, $800 or $900, you can buy for $150 from some places. And that's cool, and it's usually like a foreign version with some foreign wood, and they come unfinished. But, that's okay. They have figured out how to make a product, a high-quality product, for really cheap. And somehow they're still making money, which blows my mind, for at $150. But anyways, I don't want to digress too much, and I hope this message gets out. If I know probably somewhere between 50 and 150 people from our YouTube channel will see it, but maybe share this with people who you think it might make a difference, because I know we want to make a difference. Stay tuned.